You are venturing into new territory in terms of your three new businesses. Traditionally, you had your BizWorks, which is currently your major growth area, and your MediaWorks. Tell us about these new revenue streams that are taking you forward.
Yes, we were very excited about them, primarily because the historical revenues come from the last two divisions that you mentioned, BizWorks and MediaWorks. And we've now used the technology that we developed. We've created a common technical platform and now deployed that into the three divisions, which is Disaster Recovery Works, ID Works, and Carbon Works. So what it'll do is it'll create a new revenue stream to the business and also create new legs to the business in terms of opening up new channels to the market.
And how are you going to be funding this expansion?
It's all funded from cash. We're still sitting currently with 65 million rands worth of cash, free cash. There's no gearing in the business. It's debt-free. So we've been able to use the old traditional business to fund the new business.
I want to just talk a bit about your presence in Africa. There's been a lot of developments in the telecom space. It's been one of the key growth areas despite the recession. And we're talking huge margins. In Tanzania, I think the growth in the mobile subscribers was 30%. There's new developments in terms of the Easy cable, the Seacom cable. How is that impacting your business and also your growth strategy on the continent?
Well, currently we operate in 34 countries using relationships with 83 networks, and that's primarily for SMS campaigns that we provide for companies like MultiChoice. In the last year, we've identified a number of countries, in fact 6 countries, that we wanted to deploy our own technology, particularly fax to email. We've done it very successfully in South Africa, so we want to move into those territories, which were Zimbabwe, Zambia, Ghana, Kenya, and Nigeria, and Namibia. So what we'll do is deploy our own platform, provide a fully fledged fax-to-email facility in those countries. Now, in terms of bandwidth, obviously that assists us. The more bandwidth that's freely available, cheaper and quicker, it enables us to sell our products a lot more efficiently. So I think the growth of bandwidth, coupled with what we are doing in terms of deploying new technologies, works hand in hand.
In terms of some of the challenges that a lot of telecoms or businesses in the telecom space in Africa face, you obviously, for instance, for the viewers who don't know, for your MediaWorks, for instance, you would manage all the SMSing that goes for shows like Big Brother or Idols. I mean, how easy is it to kind of get those contracts, to manage them in terms of working with governments and the telecoms providers?
Yeah, look, it's a very interesting question. It's very difficult. So I think the mindset is you need a long-term strategy and you need a lot of patience. So when you work into Africa, you need to spend a lot of time working in those countries, developing relationships. So I think we've created what we call hot desks at our local office in Randburg, where we communicate with those various telecoms on an ongoing basis, build up relationships, and then manage that relationship over time. What we're starting to do now is move physically into those territories to enhance those relationships. So I think it's a long sales cycle, and you need to work on those relationships and develop them over time. It's not easy. Obviously takes a lot of time and patience.
There seems to be a movement, for instance, in Kenya with regards to regulating the mobile space a lot more. And we've obviously had RICA in South Africa, which you were very active in. You've also been involved in FICA. How active are you going to be throughout the rest of the continent in those regulatory spaces?
Well, as you know, we've developed an identity access management program, which is orientated around FICA in South Africa and RICA. And there are identity access management legislation throughout the whole of Africa, in fact, throughout the whole world. What we have done is we followed the international standards, the Financial Action Task Force guidelines. We've developed a product that we can deploy inside South Africa, which we have done. We're working on a pilot now with CIPRA, which has been very successful over the last 2 years. And we're about to launch with a large banking institution with our partner Law Compliance in South Africa. We will take that same model and deploy it within those various territories in Africa, obviously using the local legislation as the guideline, but as I said, using international standards as best practice. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in Africa. I think there's a lot of pressure internationally for companies and accounting institutions to comply with legislation, and particularly in South Africa with the Protection of Personal Information Bill coming out shortly. A lot of companies that traditionally work on paper-based applications will have to move to electronic-based applications using PKI and digital certificates. So we'll take the South African experience and deploy it in those territories.